Hello viewers, welcome to a new vlog. I think you have heard about the very rich and cultural heritage of Indian mythology. Since the time immemorials of Vedic civilization, the Indian peoples have worshipped different gods and goddesses in their way of life with reverential fear, and their knowledge, their custom, their tradition have been impregnated within their everyday life, and that has turned into the mythological evidences in the Indian subcontinent from time to time. You might have heard that Indian women have been worshipped as a symbol of energy in the different mythological context. And if I talk you about energy as a science appetizers, you must have the pleasure to know about mitochondria. Now, do you know that the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of cell and the storehouse of energy, is directly come from the mother during the formation of the first cell of the life, that is the zygote. You know that mother contributed egg along with the different other organelles present within the egg, and the father contribute a set of chromosomes which ultimately leads the foundation of a cell zygote, whose the chromosomes comes from both the father and the mother, but the nuclear components solely acknowledged from the mother. So in this context, we can say that mitochondria is derived from the mother, and thus we can say that yes, mother or the woman can rightly be worshipped as the symbol of energy and powerhouse in the context of energy dynamics in biological system. Now let me to quote a very beautiful mythological rhymes that have been uttered since the time immemorial. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstita Namastashe 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 Namo Namah. To that Devi, who is all beings, is abiding in the form of power, salutations to her, salutations to her, and salutations to her. So, the woman has been worshipped by the peoples as the powerhouse of shell and the storehouse of energy in different socio-economic activities, whether it is the context of peace or to conquer any war against the invasion of what context. Now, if you know that different kind of issues in our present context which are being highlighted day to day, like the Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, chronic fatigue syndrome, Huntington's disease, diabetes, and autonomic problems. So, if anybody asks you what is the biological context of this kind of disease which is supposed to happen, obviously we turn back our eyes towards the mitochondria. Now the question comes, who is mitochondria? You know that in eukaryotic cell, it is made up of an organized nucleus along with different other membrane-bound organelles and some non-membrane-bound organelles. The eukaryotic cells in general and human beings in particular have a very dedicated two membrane-bound organelles, which is known as the mitochondria. And this mitochondria each play a very important role for manifold purposes. We take oxygen, we get food, and the generations of the power and energy in the form of ATP is basically derived from these respiratory substrates, which may be either glucose or amino acids or fatty acids or anything else, and this oxidation is taken into account in presence of desired amount of the oxygen for its full combustion. As a result, high energy these molecules are being produced, which is called ATP, and this ATP is basically synthesized within the mitochondria. So, whenever you talk about the mitochondria, which basically signifies the productions of the energy as well as stored within its vicinity as far as the biological point of view. Another interesting information that is called apoptosis, that is a cell death. A cell can multiply itself, but after a certain period of the time, the cell can undergo degeneration and it stops its division, and that is called the cell death, and this mechanism is called apoptosis. Mitochondria basically decide whether a cell can undergo apoptosis or not. In absence of or in the vicinity of scarce oxygen, mitochondria produces a number of the molecules which is basically known as the ROS, that is reactive oxygen species. So when oxygen availability is least, reactive oxygen species are formed, which enables the production of number of free radicals that ultimately unstables the mitochondria. As a result, the cell undergo degeneration process, and this is called apoptosis. So if we talk about the cell death or individual death, then mitochondria play very important role. You know about calcium and its role in human body. Exactly, the polarization and depolarization of the nerve fibers during the muscle contraction in general and heart muscles in particular, the calcium intake is very important features, and mitochondria play a very strong role for this calcium storage within the vicinity of the cell. You feel a very chilled conditions, and right at the time we do need huge productions of the heat so as to the body remain kept in warmth. Heat productions is caused by proton leakage, and this proton leakage is basically brought about by the mitochondria so as to we have the pleasure of the homeostasis to regulate our body temperature corresponding to the temperature from the external sources. In this context, you can see that mitochondria is a very interesting organism which is quite protected by the external coverings of outer membrane and inner membrane, along with it's a de novo organelles which has the potentiality to divide itself by the courtesy of 37 genes having very limited base pairs, which is near about 17,000. So 17,000 base pairs to build up 37 genes. It's an interesting biological information to the artificial AI engineers, because this is an algorithm which is an interesting information can provide how such a small number of base pair can build up such a small number of genes which play a very important role for multifold actions of the living systems in general and human beings in particular. Let's talk about these interesting features. We just see that during the Durga Puja or anything else, we very often utter these hymns, Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstita Namastashe 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 Namo Namah. So woman has been worshipped since the time immemorial as a source of energy, and the biological beauty and the magic of the reality is that the mitochondria, which is the sole source of energy and the powerhouse of the cell, along with a number of regulatory activities like cell death, strong calcium intake, heat productions, along with the regulations of the different kind of diseases, are fully bestowed upon the mitochondria, which basically derives from the mother. Thus, conclusively, we can say that woman has rightly been worshipped as the source of energy, and they are the powerhouse of the cell of a family, not only in the context of social issue but also in the biological context, because mitochondria basically derives from the mother, and in that consideration every living organisms are acknowledged to the mother for their vitality, for their violence, and for their dynamisms. So I think you have enjoyed this journey, and this beautiful episode can strengthen your respect and regards to the Indian mythology, which is treated as the treasure of knowledge and the wisdom since the time immemorials, and even in the 21st century, the entire whole world is looking forward to the Indian mythological issues and parameters which may extend a ray of hope for more and more scientific informations that can allow the 21st century to be the century for human integrity, for human loves and human patience in the forthcoming days. I think you have enjoyed this journey, and in the next episode, we'll try to explore another beauty of biology. Until that, thank you very much for listening. Thank you once again. Meet you in the next episode.